What's going on? It's Ethan with Threewind Sports. It's the Threewind Podcast, episode 22, I believe. A great show for you today. It's just me, once again. Hopefully this is the last week in a while that it'll be just me. But because I have college exams, AP exams tomorrow, I'm doing this real late at night because I had to study all day today. Just throwing this in there at night, late at night. It is currently May 1st. It's coming out on May 2nd. You'll be seeing this on May 2nd or later. Man, we got a packed show. We got the NFL draft just happened. Going to talk about the top guys in that. Going to talk about my Buffalo Bills, how I think they did in the draft. Then we got the NBA playoffs are still at the peak of their excitement right now. You got games almost every night. We're in the second round. The second round has already started. The first round is completely over. Then you got the NBA draft is coming up. I'm going to give you my top 5 guys and some wild cards going into the NBA draft. So without further ado, make sure you like and subscribe to this video and to this channel. It helped me feed my family. I'm going under quickly. So it does. I'm at 38 subscribers right now. If I were to hit 40, it would be a big milestone. Would probably bring me to tears. If I were to hit 40, 50, we're pushing it. Let's get right into it. NFL draft. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and tell you that I'm a crazy NFL draft guy. I'm not even a big NFL guy. I have my team, the Bills, best team currently. I'm not going to say ever because, they suck historically, but right now I think they're the best team in the NFL. And that's about it. I know some guys that went to Kentucky because I'm a Kentucky guy, but for the most part, I'm out on it. I'm out on the NFL, and usually I have a guy sitting to the right of me here who knows a thing or two more than me about the league. But hey, I'm gonna give you my best assessment of the top picks in this draft. Then I'm going to talk about the Bills draft because that is something I have researched. I was watching for those picks. Straight out the gate, Trayvon Walker, from what I've seen, might be a bust. I had never heard of the guy coming up to of course, Aiden Hutchinson, who ended up going second. I'd been hearing about him all year long, right? And even some of the guys that were a little bit down the road, a little bit down the list on the draft, I'd been hearing about all year. This guy, Trayvon Walker, I hadn't heard about him until like a week before the draft. They're like, this new guy is in. He might go number 1. It's like, who could possibly have just randomly leaped to this guy that I've been hearing about all year long? And it's this kid, and he gets taken number 1 overall, and that's it. Aiden Hutchinson gets taken second. Hutchinson stays in Michigan. I'm so sorry for him because his career is now ruined because he got drafted to Detroit. Could he be the best Detroit player ever? There's a very good chance. He very well could be the greatest Detroit Lion of all time, which is always a fun thing to have. But at the same time, would you rather get drafted number 2 to the Lions and stay in Michigan, or would you rather get drafted number 1 to the Jaguars and probably never do anything ever in your career because you're on the Jaguars? And Walker has to face the fire that is Jacksonville. That's about it. I think Walker has serious bust potential, not for any good reason. I'm not an NFL draft guy. I'm not looking at the numbers. I'm not really deep diving into stuff, but the fact that I hadn't heard about this kid until a week before the draft scares me a little bit. You can't be taking leaps like that to the number 1 pick. The last time something like that happened, Anthony Bennett got selected number 1 in the NBA draft. Look what happened to him. No one was talking about Anthony Bennett until a week before the draft. They were like, this guy Anthony Bennett has some serious intangibles that could be valuable at the next level. He gets taken number 1. He's the worst number 1 pick of all time. Could Trayvon Walker be the worst number 1 NFL draft pick of all time? Probably not. Simply because his position, defensive end, he's not looked at in the same light as like a quarterback taken number 1. But still, I think he has major bust potential. You know who I don't think has major bust potential? Aiden Hutchinson at the number 2 pick. Why? Because this is a guy that was supposed to go number 1 the entire time. And if you're supposed to go number 1 the entire time and you end up going 2, you can't even be a bust, can you? I mean, you went lower than you were supposed to go. So can you even be a bust? I don't think you can. So I don't care if he never steps foot on an NFL field. He can't really be a bust because he's already starting lower than he was supposed to start. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, will probably be the best player in this draft. Not a great draft from what I've been told, and from the players that I know, they aren't like crazy high on this draft board other than like a Hutchinson. So like, you know what I'm saying? This is not a crazy great draft. Will he be the best player in this draft? There's a very good chance. I don't think it's going to be Trayvon Walker. So if you were to ask me right now, who do you think is going to be the best player in this draft? Not who's going to have the best career because the guy's stuck on the Detroit Lions, but who's going to be the best player? Hey man, I'd put my money on Hutch. You know what I'm saying? I'd put my money on Hutch. That's why I wore the light blue sweatshirt today to raise awareness for Detroit Lions, which is a cancer in the NFL. Raise awareness, Detroit Lions, cancer. Derek Stingley Jr. is taken number 3. The dude hasn't played in like 10 years, but for that 1 year that he was playing, he was so good that the dude got taken 3. I heard some people saying he was going to get taken in the 20s. Dude got taken 3. How does that happen? Does that happen anywhere else? I don't follow the MLB or the NHL, so does that happen in their drafts where a guy that's supposed to be taken in the 20s gets taken number 3? I mean, I've heard some people like say, well, 20s is a little low, teens was probably more like he's got taken 3. He just got taken 3. There was no teens. No team had him in the teens if he's getting taken 3, because why would the Texans take him 3 if they thought they could get him later? You know what I'm saying? I don't even know if they had a later pick, but it's the Texans, so I assume they do because they're really, really bad at football. Not really. Oh yeah, 15. I mean, if they are if this guy was supposed to go in the teens, take another guy with your 3 and try to get him at 15. He obviously was not supposed to go in the teens. This dude was a top pick on everybody's draft board if the Texans are taking him at 3. You know who I really like? You know who I really like in this draft? Sauce Gardner. Never even heard of the dude before this. I'm telling you, I do not follow football like that. Never even heard of him. He's now one of my favorite players ever. Ever. First off, named Sauce. Very cool. But then I see a video of him getting suited up for the draft, and he gets this big chain, this iced out chain of just a sauce bottle. Coolest thing I've ever seen. First off, it's an iced out sauce bottle. Who's thinking of that unless your name is Sauce? You know what I'm saying? So if your name is Sauce, cool enough already. If he was a iceless Sauce Gardner, if he was just Sauce Gardner, no sauce ice, he'd be really cool. He'd probably still be the coolest player in this draft. But because he's doubled up ice Sauce Gardner, he's by far the coolest player in this draft. He's probably already the coolest player in the NFL. And I'll be honest, there's only one guy who could top him, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. We go to Kayvon Thibodeau, who I'm hearing from the left of me, from the right of me, that this guy could have been taken number 1. Apparently, everybody could have been taken number 1 because this guy Walker gets taken number 1 out of thin air. So, yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, everybody's telling me he's like really, really good, so I believe him. The thing is, all these guys are on horrible teams. Sauce Gardner's going to the Jets, and I guess he's on a team with the prettiest guy in football, but that doesn't matter to me. Okay, first off, prettiest guy in football and coolest guy in football on the same team. Pretty good combination. But other than that, they're still the Jets, and they're probably not going to win a game this season because they're that bad. Kayvon Thibodeau's going to the Giants. Really bad team, but he's supposed to be really good. Ike Ekwonu, I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying that correctly, but I usually like to think that my pronunciation skills are above average. So Ike Ekwonu, I'm assuming is how you say that. Supposed to be very good. Going to the Panthers, suck. Evan Neal. Some people were like, Evan Neal could have gone number 1. I don't remember exactly who said that. Sorry, buddy. You got a really boring name. Evan Neal. Evan Neal. Before this, you got Derek Stingley Jr., which is really cool. Sauce Gardner. Aiden Hutchinson, which isn't admittedly crazy cool, but there's a lot of syllables there, which give you something to work with. I'll be honest, Trayvon Walker, not all that cool. Ike Ekwonu, very cool. Kayvon Thibodeau, very cool. Then Evan Neal. I don't even think he should have been drafted. Drake London. Drake. I heard somewhere that the actual Drake put like a large amount of money on this guy getting taken in the top 10. He made it. He got taken at 8. He's going to the Falcons. Not the worst place you could go. Out of all the teams we've talked about so far, they're probably the best one on here. Charles Cross gets taken out of Mississippi State. I'm not a big Mississippi State guy. What can I say? And then let me go before I get to the guy that I want to talk about, the guy that I'm on the ceiling of. I think he's the best player probably of all time. Ooh, voice crack right there. Probably the best player of all time. And I'm not going to edit out that voice crack for two reasons. A, do not have editing software because I'm stingy and I particularly do not want to pay for it. And B, because I'm a man of the people. Yeah, right? I'm just like you. I voice crack like everybody else. I'm just significantly more handsome and funny. We move on. Anybody that I really want to talk about. Kenny Pickett. You know what? I'm mad. I'm pissed off. I didn't think I would be, but I am. Pittsburgh takes Kenny Pickett. I get it. He played at Pittsburgh. I get it. You just got Mitchell Trubisky. Do you know how good Mitchell Trubisky is? Mitch Trubisky. Does that name not ring a bell? You just got it. He played under the greatest quarterback of all time, Josh Allen. Just last year, he learned from the best. This dude's probably going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league this year, Mitch Trubisky is. And you get a guy, Kenny Pickett. He should be asking the opposing defense, Kenny Pickett, because they're going to be picking off every single thing he throws when he's on the field and not Mitch Trubisky. This is sickening. Mitch Trubisky, I promise you, if you play him over Kenny can't throw the ball Pickett, you're gonna win a lot more games than you would with him or Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, emphasis on the burger because he's fat. And here we go. And that was our top guys segment. Here we go straight into the money of this podcast, the Bills draft. The Bills had the best draft. I was looking at someone saying the top 5 teams with the best drafts, Bills wasn't even on there. Are you crazy? Do you know how good the Buffalo Bills are right now to have got the guys that they got to fill the positions that they needed to fill? It was the most perfect draft maybe ever. At 23, they trade up to get their guy in Kaiir Elam, who is a stud out of Florida at the cornerback position. You know what position we need right now? Cornerback. Our best cornerback has an ACL tear, and our second best just left in free agency. We got a guy right now, rookie, stud out of Florida, coming in. He's going to start right away, and guess what? He's playing on the best team in the league, and he's fast as hell. This guy can keep up with anybody. That's just what the Bills needed. Perfect pick. I don't think a single pick in this entire draft is better than that pick by the Buffalo Bills. And I'm only going to talk about 3 of the Bills picks right now. You had Kaiir Elam, then you had James Cook, and I get it. When you say James Cook, you may think of famous English explorer James Cook, who sailed the 7 seas, and I ain't talking Columbus James Cook. But when I think of James Cook, I think of Georgia Bulldogs, baby. And I think of Dalvin Cook's little brother coming into the league being just as good as Dalvin. You know where the Bills suck? I'll give you a hint. Their best player at the position is Devin Singletary. And to be honest, the real best player at the position is Josh Allen. Running back. The running game for the Bills is so bad that I could have got drafted and been a decent running back on the Bills. And I'm 6'1", 185 pounds of fat and flat feet. Doesn't matter to me. I am physically a specimen enough to be a running back on the Buffalo Bills. Not anymore, because we got little mini Dalvin Cook coming in, and guess what? He's going to run straight through your defense. Perfect pick. Man, I bet my audio is peaking over and over and over again because I keep saying words that start with P. Hell yeah. And then the last, but certainly not least, pick for the Bills, Matt Araiza, the punt god, another word with P, punt god out of San Diego State, the greatest college punter of all time. The Bills don't even punt the ball very often, but when they do, this guy's going to have it sailing all the way to the 1-yard line every single time. You think he has a booming leg? You think he can kick it farther than anybody? Wait till you see how accurate this guy can be. He's going to be the second best player on the team after Josh Godlike Allen punting the football. He's that good. When I said there was only one guy who could compete with Sauce Gardner in the coolest player in the NFL, I was talking the punt god, Matt Araiza. I'm just letting you I'm letting everybody know right now that the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl this year because not only do we have the best team in the NFL before this draft, we just got 3 studs and a bunch of other guys who I'm sure are very good as well. But at the very least, 3 studs. 3 studs. To add to a Bills roster that is probably already the best roster in the league, I don't see how it gets any better than that. I hope I explained to you the NFL draft about as good as anywhere else you're going to get it explained to you. I'm just that good. I know nothing about what I just said for 15 straight minutes. I'll just let you. I'll let that marinate on your mind for a minute. Let's talk about the NBA playoffs. I believe last week's episode, the only series that had ended was the Nets and the Celtics. So I'm going to go through all the first round series and talk about them. The Pelicans and the Suns. I have the utmost respect for the New Orleans Pelicans. They came in. They did what they needed to do. I just added a whole extra ED to that needed. They did what they needed to do, and to lose that series, Chris Paul had to play the best game of his career. Next year, could we see a Zion Williamson return and the Pelicans immediately becoming a contender? I'm assuming all 3 of these super rookies that they have right now are just going to get better. I think the Pelicans could be really good. Screw you, Anthony Davis. He's going to be wanting to come back to New Orleans, but we don't like guys who sit on the bench because Zion just did that for a year, and they got the 8th seed, and almost beat the 1 seed. Suns pull through, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? 2-7 Memphis Grizzlies and Minnesota Timberwolves. Look, the Timberwolves are a poverty franchise. They probably always will be. They put their best foot forward in this. And not Timberwolves. The Grizzlies just pulled it out. The Grizzlies were just better. But not really, because the Timberwolves had so many leads that they just blew because Karl Anthony Towns is not a real superstar. I'm sorry to break that to you, and I am a Kentucky guy, and I apologize to all my Kentucky fans who are punching the screen right now because I talked ill on a Kentucky player, but he's just not that good at basketball. But he is, but he's not. But he is, but he's not. You know what I mean? He's very good at basketball, but I wouldn't trust him in any scenario ever to win me a game. I just wouldn't. He's just not that guy. He doesn't have that it factor, right? He just doesn't have it. And then he walks off the court after blowing a 10-point lead to lose a series that he could have very well won, and he's blowing kisses to the fans like he's Kobe Bryant or I would say or Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan rarely lost, and he was blowing kisses to the fans, farewell, farewell. Like, brother, we're going to see you next year in the same exact position, probably losing in the first round again. Blow kisses in the future, dude. You're like 25, 26. You got plenty of time to lose more playoffs. Like, this is not cementing your legacy as the greatest Timberwolf of all time, blowing kisses after blowing a 10-point lead to the Memphis Grizzlies, another poverty franchise, in the first round. It's just not. Now let's talk about the Utah Jazz versus the Dallas Mavericks. Psych, I really don't want to talk about it again. The Mavericks won. If you want to listen to me rant about that a little bit more, I just posted a video talking about what's next for Utah. If you want to go watch that, it's on this channel, but I really don't want to talk about this again. Utah is the most mediocre franchise, and not just the NBA, but all of sports. If you want to hear more about that, go check that video out. And I believe that is all. No, I totally skipped the Warriors versus the Nuggets. Not a very fun series. The Warriors kicked the crap out of the Nuggets, but I have a lot of respect for the Nuggets coming in with literally just one player and a bunch of guys that might as well have been hopping around in burlap sacks, because it really is just a one-man show when it's just Nikola Jokic. The other guys are probably like playing jump rope and hula hoop and not basketball, while Nikola Jokic is doing, trying to win playoff games. Aaron Gordon had a couple good games in there, but mostly it was just Jokic. And they actually got a game off the Warriors, which doesn't look great for the Warriors. But for the most part, yeah, that was a demolition act. Let's go over to the East. 1 versus 8 was Miami and the Hawks. And I don't want another soul on earth to ever tell me that Trae Young is better than Luka Doncic, because Trae Young sucked in this series. He was so bad. I know he hit the game winner and that's what people are going to think of, right? But it doesn't matter. He was so bad in the rest of that game that game winner erased another bad game for him. But if he hadn't hit that game winner, this may have been the worst playoff series for a superstar we've ever seen. He was so bad. He was so bad. Like he looked like a middle schooler out there for the 90% of the time playing against NBA players. He was really bad. Not to mention he's balding, which is never safe on Twitter. When you're that bad, you cannot be balding. Kevin Durant was not that bad, and he's getting the blunt of it. Dude's been great for like 15 years, and he's not allowed to bald. Trey, you are way too young. You're definitely not allowed to bald and be bad. You got to choose one. Choose a struggle, buddy. We move on to, we already talked about the Celtics and the Nets. 3-6 was Bucks Bulls, absolute demolition. I mean, the Bulls just suck. You thought going into the season, and at one point they looked really good, that the Bulls were going to be this not super team, but they were going to be a serious contender in the East. They just weren't, man. They sucked. The Bucks are the Bucks, and they're just going to win basketball games, and the Bulls are the Bulls post 1998, and they're just going to lose them. 4-5 matchup over there was the 76ers and the Raptors. Hey, another team I have to give my respect to, the Raptors. Look, they were down 3-0. They made it a respectable series, 4-2 loss without, one of their better players. I don't mind the Raptors at all. I think they have a fantastic coach who helped them get into that scenario. I think they got a young team that seems to like each other, have chemistry. I think they really are having fun when they're out there playing, and they got some youth and they got some experience. It's a good mix over there in Toronto. The 76ers move on, but I don't think they're going to make it past the second round anyway, so props to you, Toronto, and not so good luck to my least favorite city in the world, Philadelphia. That's all the first round series. The only second round series that have started so far are the Grizzlies and the Warriors, and the Bucks and the Celtics. The Bucks took game 1 and the Warriors took game 1. I watched the Bucks Celtics game, but I didn't watch most of the Warriors and Grizzlies game. Apparently, the Warriors and Grizzlies game came down to a very stupid call, jump ball that the Memphis Grizzlies won apparently, and they called a timeout when they shouldn't have. They screw up. Golden State gets a last-second opportunity, and they win it. I should have watched the highlights before this. I apologize. As far as the Bucks and Celtics go, Celtics played really, really bad. The Bucks did what the Bucks do, even without Chris Middleton, and won basketball games. Now, I've said this before. The first 2 games of the playoff series are always the Bucks' worst 2 games. It just is. That's something that I can't explain, but it's just the case every single time. For the first 2 games, they're not great. If the Celtics are going to let them win these first 2 games, they might as well pack up and go home, because the rest of the series after that is a totally better Bucks team, totally different Bucks team, and I don't think the Celtics stand a chance if they don't win this next game. I'll be 100% honest. Now let's talk about, I think that's all the NBA playoffs I want to talk about. As of right now, I've yet to incorrectly predict a series. That is correct. I predicted the Mavericks to beat my Utah Jazz in the first round because I don't trust them and I don't like them. And anyway, I've yet to miss on a playoff series. Hand up. I'm just that good. What can I say? Let's talk about my NBA draft top 5 predictions with a couple of wild cards sprinkled in. Just a couple of wild cards. I'm not going to give you numbers for those guys. I'm not going to give you my ceilings, my floors. I'm just going to throw names out at you, and you can decide to catch them, or you can just let them fly by. But to start off, we're going to start with number 5. We're going to work our way up to number 1, and then I'm going to give you my honorable mentions for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You know what I'm saying? The lottery. At number 5, I decided to go with Keegan Murray. He was really, really good this year. He was a legitimate National Player of the Year contender. Not really, because Oscar won every single award. But as far as the guys under Oscar, he was at the top of that list. He was really, really good for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And I'll put my hand up. I got him mixed up with his twin brother most of the time, so I couldn't keep up with him. There was 2 of him running around on the floors at all times. That's not fair. They're twins, so I don't have the greatest scouting report on Keegan, because for like 90% of the time, I could have been watching his brother play. But I think he's really good. The scouts seem to think he's really good. Keegan Murray is my number 5. I could see him going as high as number 5 because I don't see a chance of him breaking into the top 4. The top 4 is cemented for me. I could see him dropping down to maybe a 9, 10, but probably not any farther than that. He's going to be a top 9 pick in this upcoming draft. For me, he lands at number 5. Number 4 for me, and I'm sure you can guess, is the guy who's kind of chilling in the limbo area between the Elite Three and the Keegan Murray area. He's in the limbo right in between, and I think one little thing at the combine could jump him up into the top 3, and one little slip in the combine could drop him down. But for right now, he's in limbo, and that's Jaden Ivey. Now, for 99% of the season, I really liked Jaden Ivey. I thought he was a top player in this upcoming draft. But the tournament kind of turned me off on him. Some things he did just I didn't really like. Last minute scenarios, his clutch factor wasn't there. His decision making and IQ seemed to be lacking in serious situations. There was something missing about Jaden Ivey for some parts of that March Madness run that I wasn't a big fan of. But for the most part, for 90 some odd % of the season, I really liked him. He was pretty much all year in my top 5 at 4. I haven't really moved him from 4 all year. My top 3 have moved around. My bottom after 4, but he's kind of always been that 4 guy. He's always kind of cemented himself as not that elite 3, but not quite in that area where a bunch of guys are getting jumbled up at 5 through 14. For me, he's number 4. I don't really see a chance of him moving up, but at the same time, I don't see a chance of him moving down. That is unless something goes crazy, someone throws a random name in the top 3, then he'll move down. He might even be the name that gets thrown in. But for the most part, I think there's a very, 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 very good chance he goes at number 4. I think that is the safest bet. I don't even know if that's a thing, betting on where players get drafted. But if it is, I think the safest bet in the entire draft is betting Jaden Ivey going number 4 in this draft. Number 3 for me, and this is very hard. I already said this. The top 3 got kind of jumbled up at times. But right now, at this very moment, we still got like 50 days until the draft. I'm sure I'll go over this again in a future episode with guys sitting next to me to tell me, Ethan, you're stupid. Ethan, you're smart. Ethan, you're handsome. Ethan, let me kiss you. But for right now, Jabari Smith is my number 3. He's kind of like Jaden Ivey, where for the most part, 90% of the season, I really liked him. Everything about him, his size, his intangibles, they're there. He can shoot, he can drive, he can play defense. Everything looks really good, and then he gets into March Madness where things matter, where he's got to win games, and in the SEC tournament where things matter and he's got to win games, and he kind of falls off. He doesn't have it. There's something there. The competitiveness, there's something there. He's kind of just always moving at his own pace, which isn't always a bad thing. A guy like Luka Doncic moves at his own pace. A guy like Kevin Durant moves at his own pace, but sometimes you got to speed up. Sometimes you got to take it to the hoop. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to win a basketball game. And him and Ivy, both of them, for different reasons. I think Jaden Ivey, his IQ wasn't there. He turned the ball over in tense moments. For Jabari Smith, it was like he was kind of just moseying along, going through the phases. It wasn't like it was that important to him. And I guess when you're a top 3 pick, it doesn't have to be that important to you. But for me, the casual watcher, not the deep diver, I'm not going back and watching film. For the time being, there was something missing, and that sat him at 3 for me. At number 2, man, this was hard. Number 1 and number 2 was very hard for me, and my number 1 guy got dropped to my number 2 guy after I heard some scouts. So I'm basing this a little bit off of scouts that I've been hearing saying that the number 2 guy is the number 1 guy and the number 1 guy is the number 2 guy. So I flipped him. The guy at my number 2 this morning was my number 1, and the guy at my number 1 this morning was number 2. I watched some workouts of both of these guys, and from what I've been hearing, the scouts like the guy I put at number 1, and I trust the scouts because, spoiler alert, they know more about me. They know more, well, they might know about me, but they know more about their job than I do, despite the fact that I probably know quite a bit about their job, despite the fact that I'm in high school and have never done their job. I probably know quite a bit about it. I digress. For right now, Chet Holmgren is my number 2. It doesn't get better physically than Chet Holmgren. And his size, his defense, his offense, everything, it really doesn't get better. And I know people like me, basketball nerds, just statistic guys, numbers guys, when you say that he's too skinny to play the 5, but too, I don't even know, to play the 4, they're like, that's stupid. Skinny guys play the 5 all the time. You see it all the time. These skilled, thin, lanky guys are very successful in the league. Look at Kevin Durant. And I'm like, do I trust this guy to be Kevin Durant? No, because I don't trust anybody to be Kevin Durant because he's Kevin Durant. So while I think there is some validity to the statement that him being too skinny will not work, I also think there's some validity to the statement that that won't matter at all. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think he is a little too skinny. I think when he gets to the NBA, though, they're going to put weight on him. They're going to put him in a weight room. He's going to get some muscle on him. Do I think he's ever going to be this jacked Giannis-looking guy, go from skinny to jacked like Giannis did? Probably not. But I think he'll get bigger, and I think that will be important in his growth of his game. And I really don't know what's missing for him. But apparently the scouts don't like him at 1. They like him at 2. And I'm completely fine with putting him at 2 because I think the guy that I have at number 1 and that the scouts have at number 1 right now sees something in him that makes him special, and that's Paolo Banchero. At times I thought Paolo Banchero didn't look like the best player in this draft. Sometimes I thought, man, this guy cannot be stopped. And more so than Holmgren, I think more so than Holmgren, he has a higher ceiling. Well, actually, I don't know about that. Chet Holmgren has a pretty high ceiling, but I think he has a higher floor. And when you have a higher floor than somebody and a pretty close ceiling, you're probably going to get the edge. And I think Banchero's going to get the edge. He is the most polished player in this draft, the most, I'd say skilled player in this draft, the most calm, cool, and collected player in this draft. Everything that he does seems like he's thinking of it steps and steps in advance. And some people would look at that and think that's not a great thing to have. That's not a crazy good thing to do because you got to think on the fly. But in my eyes, when I watch him play, it works. He's like a surgeon out there, cutting through defenders, planning out passes. I've mentioned this guy over and over again, but the way he moves out there, not in the same manner of movement, but the way he moves like he always has a plan, kind of reminds me of Luka Doncic, where he always seems to have a plan, whether it's him passing it out to the right guy every single time, or him making a move that gets the guy gets the interior defender off his feet, or this kid has by far the best jab step I have seen in college basketball. It's the craziest thing. Every time he does a jab step, his defender acts like he's going to go in and dunk on him right away. He'd just sit there and do like 6 jab steps, and his defender, like, his legs break and his knees crunch, and he falls to the floor in a pool of his own blood just from like 4 jab steps. I've never seen it before. And then he just stands up from the top of the key and knocks down a mid-range shot. He's number 1 for me right now. I could see that changing. I could see the top 3 changing. I could see 4, 5, 6 changing. Probably not 4. I think Jaden Ivey's probably going to stay at 4. I promised some honorable mentions. I'll give you some honorable mentions. Shaedon Sharpe, as much as I wish he stayed at Kentucky, is such a mysterious player. I think he'll get picked high. He was the number 1 coming out of high school, hasn't played any college basketball, youngest player in this draft. I think he gets picked high because he has, especially if the Spurs are up there and want to land him, I think the Spurs take him in a second because he goes hand in hand with Josh Primo, who's the youngest player in the league right now, and now they have a timeline that is ready for like the next 15 years. What a crazy timeline if they can grab Shaedon Sharpe. Other guys, Benedict Mathurin, very good. I've never been crazy high on Mathurin, but I think he's in the conversation for the top 7 or so picks. Who else? Johnny David, I think, has jumped up on some, or not Johnny David, Johnny Davis. I don't know why. Wasn't Johnny David a bench warmer for Kentucky a couple years ago? I'm pretty sure he was. Has jumped up on the board for a lot of people. For me, not so much. I think he's probably a 10, 11, 12, 13 guy, but I've seen him. Some people put him at 6. Hey, if he's at 6, he's at 6. I don't personally put him up there, but some people have. And I'll give you one more. Let me think. There's people are high on Dyson Daniel. People are high on Marchamp. I think that's his name. Bojan Marchamp. People are high on him. I haven't seen a lot of either of those guys because they're not through college, which is fine. But I haven't seen a lot on him. There's a guy named Nikola Jovic, which could be really bad at basketball, but just because his name is Nikola Jovic, in my mind, I'd be like, why are we not taking this guy at like 1? His name's Nikola Jovic. His name is almost Nikola Jokic, and he's built closer in size to Luka Doncic. Why are we not picking this guy at number 1? Well, sir, we've never actually seen him play before. Doesn't matter. Pick him. That's kind of what I'm thinking. As far as the draft goes, this is a very top-heavy one. And yeah, I think that's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at, and that's the last topic of the day. So with that being said, thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. I know that I said that at the beginning, but I'm saying it again so that you remember. And if you made it here, thank you so much. Go check out all of our other videos. Like I said earlier, I made a video on the Utah Jazz just yesterday if you want to hear more about that. Find us on all of our social medias at Threewind Sports. The only time you'll need to search up the Threewind podcast is if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Other than that, it's Threewind Sports all the way, baby. Go read our blog. We have a ton of blog posts every single day. I got guys coming out with NFL draft. What's the word? NFL draft analysis over their personal teams. That'll be interesting. Yeah, just go check all that stuff out. Thanks for watching. Have a very, very good day and evening. And go Bills, screw the Jazz, and Viva La Stool.